Okay, welcome everybody to the 4 p.m. session. We have James Robertson from the Danish Lacrosse with us. And he's going to do a module here on social media and being able to monetize and capitalize and use social media as a source of revenue. So, James, why don't you give us a little background and introduction on yourself, and I'm gonna let you handle it from here. I'll be here to filter the Q&A. So anybody that's in attendance, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A chat box located at the bottom. We'll filter through these. I'm sure, James, you mind if they just pop them in as we go along?
Yeah, just check the questions down as we go, and you can, if they're relevant for where we are, you can ask them, or we can take them at the end whenever we have time.
Okay. Well, this is all you.
Yeah, perfect. Hey, everyone. I'm James. I moved to Denmark, 9 years ago this year. I used to live in Australia and play lacrosse there. And when I first moved to Denmark, there wasn't really any presence at all of Denmark on the internet for lacrosse anyway. We didn't have a Facebook page for the national team or the association or a Twitter or anything. So I joined the board shortly after I got here and decided it was time to bring Danish lacrosse into the new millennium. We've done a whole bunch of different stuff. I've kind of made a PowerPoint that basically summarizes what we've been doing. I guess I'll bring that up so you can have a look. There we go. If I can get this thing to work. Share screen. Here we go. So yeah, when we started, we had our first national team had been around years ago, and then we decided we were going to relaunch it in 2016 for the European Championships. We hadn't had a national team for 6 years by then because it had basically fallen apart, and all the older guys who had been around Danish lacrosse had kind of quit. So we had to kind of start from scratch, and we ended up making a new logo. So that's what you can see here is this Gorm the Viking. Why are we on social media? Was basically we're trying to get sponsorship, fundraising, and for recruiting were the main three drives behind our social media thing. We're at Danish Lacrosse on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'll tell you about why it's Danish Lacrosse and not Denmark Lacrosse in a bit. I'm going to talk about the PowerPoint here. I'm going to go through the main parts here with sponsorship, fundraising, and recruiting. And then during the PowerPoint, there'll be a few examples of different content that you can make that's pretty simple and like a lot of stuff that people like. Obviously, dogs in lacrosse uniforms are good. This one's a bit of a dogception thing with a dog wearing a dog uniform. How to get started, I guess. Obviously, try and get a good logo would be one of the main things. We're all about trying to sell merchandise. We have hardly any members in lacrosse in Denmark. We have about 50 people in the country who play. So it's hard to sell t-shirts to our own members because once they buy one, they're like, okay, I've already got a Viking t-shirt or a dog t-shirt. How many do I need? We want to try and be able to sell them around the world. So obviously we want to get a good logo on there. You want to make or you want to find past content for your accounts and put everything on a cloud bank on the internet so it's easy to access. That's the good thing about having apps like Dropbox and Drive on your phone. You can easily access them and just share it straight onto Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. Obviously, advertise yourself. You want to use a variety of players and in all your posts. So on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. We try and go through all our different national team players, even juniors. Lots of pictures of a whole variety of different people, guys, girls, seniors, juniors. Because they're friends and family, you want to get them involved first. Obviously, people who are also watching, they want to see that there's a variety of people and not just the same person again and again and again and again. Everything is interesting to someone, especially when you're new. When you make these new accounts, they kind of want to know who you are, especially for like we're a national team, but if you have a team for your area, people who are finding it, they want to see what you're doing and what you're up to. So I remember like early on, we had no content really because we were pretty new. We hadn't had a national team for 6 years. So I remember I was just posting like, even we did a draft for our uniforms one time and it was like a hand sketch and I posted and then people we're kind of interested in that, like what's the color scheme and what are you doing? You know, where are you getting them made, that type of stuff. So everything is interesting to somebody. So you should just pretty much post everything, especially at the start, because it can be hard to create content. Creating and embracing a tone. You got to figure out, obviously, you know, if you're a fun account, if you're going to be serious about social media, you know, are your players skilled or are they beginners? Like, you're going to embrace that they're dropping 1,000 passes and finally scoring a goal, or do you want to make it look like they're flawless? We kind of originally went with a bit of a fun thing for our national team, but we've kind of transitioned to being a bit more serious. At the start, we were kind of the European version of washed up Lax Bros. But after we relaunched women's lacrosse in Denmark, and now we have a junior team as well. So we have a bit more information that gets shared on our social media accounts. I wrote down the bottom here as well. Own a few hashtags, but dominate them. Because the way hashtags work is, you know, people write hashtag fitness and there'll be 20,000 fitness posts for the day, but people aren't going to see them unless you're in the top few. It's, you know, there's whoever has the most likes on their post that has the hashtag is going to be at the top of that. People can search for hashtags. So always use very few hashtags, but try and dominate them. You want to be the post that gets the most likes using that hashtag. Obviously, you want to use lacrosse and grow the game or whatever, but I don't know. I've even stopped using them because I think we have enough followers at the moment that we don't really need to have hashtags, and they're getting a bit old. Post everything. Obviously, we made a dog trophy for our 3x competition in Copenhagen. There's an entry club thing. We also had a night when we had no goalie stick, so this is a longboard in goal. A couple of different examples of content you can have. Sponsorship is one of the first points we had on that. We've actually been lucky enough to get our national team. We had a bit of a player package sponsorship for our national team and a uniform sponsor. I'd say, you know, we have some value because we have a lot of followers, but you don't really want to, you know, create content with the hope of getting sponsorship. It's more like you get sponsorship as a result of having a lot of followers and good content. We had a sponsorship through PAL Lacrosse. They're pretty new, and they liked what we were doing as far as what content we were putting out on the internet, and they wanted us to obviously use their products. And we post a lot, so like if we have their gear on, it's going to be put out on the internet quite a lot. Is there any value in the company sponsoring you? That's a good thing to ask yourself. Like, you know, you're a tiny team that no one really cares about. It's a bit hard to try and get a sponsorship, but you can always find local things. I also wrote at the bottom here, creating content specifically to chase sponsors is usually very dull because, yeah, no one really likes an ass kisser. Fundraising. We've done a whole bunch of different stuff in Denmark to try and raise money for the national team. And we've ended up using social media. They were saying we have about 50 people in Denmark who play lacrosse, and you're going to sell t-shirts to these people. They buy it once and they're kind of like, okay, do I need a whole cupboard full of these Copenhagen Good Boys t-shirts? So we wanted to try and get out of our own little bubble and obviously get money from other people who aren't just our friends and family. Do people care about you as a brand and your product? Obviously, having a good logo really helps, and Denmark and the Vikings, that was a bit of a thing we've played on before. Are people going to be proud to wear your logo? I don't know. You want to have something that's good that people want to wear down the street. I mean, some logos are pretty messy, but you can even create a good one. I've seen people do things on MS Paint that are pretty respectable, or even like hand-drawn stuff. So it depends more on like what it is than the quality of it. I wrote here, create a web shop. If you're going to try and sell t-shirts, we used to order like 50 t-shirts into Copenhagen and try and send them out from here. So I'd be sending out t-shirts from my house to people around the world, and it was a bit of like silly to order these t-shirts from somewhere overseas, get them to Copenhagen, and send them out again. So I would recommend creating a web shop or find someone else to host a web shop. Offer less products, but make them good. I mean, if you're going to stock your own stuff at home, you obviously don't want a house full of products you're never going to move. So it's better off doing like one thing selling it out and then ordering like a new product. Obviously we've done beers in the past. That was really good for us. We made a few $1,000s off beer. That was a real like collector's item. A lot of people wrote to us randomly and they wanted us to ship beer around the world, which is a little bit kind of hard to do. These Copenhagen Good Boys t-shirts have been a massive seller at the moment. They're still going really well. We're about to get a new shipment of those into Copenhagen as well. At the bottom here I've written bachelor parties. It actually doesn't really have much to do with social media. But we do bachelor parties in Copenhagen, which is, we took out an ad on the internet on the Danish equivalent of bachelorparties.com or whatever, but like it's called Polterabend DK. And we host bachelor parties. So, you dress the groom up in goalie gear and his friends can shoot balls at him. And at the end, they do some like ground ball games and Hungry Hippos. And at the end, they play a game of as many guys as they can and they beat the crap out of each other. They seem to like it. We make a few $1,000s a year off it, which we can use for junior equipment and going to tournaments. Okay, how do we get people to care about us? So one of the main things, I'm actually not, I don't study. Yeah.
Sure. Just had a question pop in here and there. Is there a service or a shop that you recommend for a web store?
So yeah, we have ours through a thing called Lacrosse Village. It's based in St. Louis. I know other people, like you can get it on a thing called Society 6. There's another one that do like t-shirt printing as you go. Some uniform companies might also do it for you. I know there's a whole bunch based in Canada and America, like people who obviously print uniforms. You could talk to them about doing, your t-shirts for your club and them having them online as a thing that they would sell out, but obviously they would want sort of a cut of your money. I think it's just easy to have someone else host your web shop because it takes a lot of pressure off it. We're so small, we don't have many volunteers. So it's easy to have someone in America printing our t-shirts and just sending them out to us or sending them out to other people and then sending us the money for it.
Okay. The second comment was, you have to tell us more about these bachelor parties.
Yeah, so we take, it's a minimum of 10 people and it's about 30, it's about around $30 per person. It's 200 Danish krona per person. So it's a minimum of 2,000 krona, which is, I don't know, like $300. For that to run a party, it goes for about 2 hours. We have all the kit. We have like a full class set of gear, but we also use that for these bachelor parties. We kit the guys up and then do a lot of the traditional like ground ball games and some basic catching and throwing and whatever. But you also try and include some fun stuff like get them to spin around and push each other over and whatever. It's a really good way of making money. You can do it for a couple of hours. I mean, it's not really a recruiting tool, but it's a great way of making money because people, bachelor parties, office, team bonding, you can get these kind of people to come out and try lacrosse. And it's a good way of making money off it. So we took an ad out on the internet, which we pay for, but the ad paid for itself after a day. It's a really, one of the best things we've ever done. We make a few $1,000s a year on bachelor parties. If anyone wants more information about it, they can, I've got my details at the end and I can send out.
I'll say just now, that's pretty damn unique.
Yeah, I can't remember where it came from. When I was on the board, we were sitting around, I think we could be drinking a beer and trying to figure out how we're going to make some money because we had no money to do anything. So it came up as an idea.
Gotcha.
I think one of the guys was getting married at the time and was like, hey, we should do this. But I've tried to help a few different people get it going. I know one of the guys in the Czech Republic at the moment, Brian, I've been talking to him about him trying to do it at Radatine because they have a really good setup there. I mean, you could just drag the gear out and the box would be enclosed so the balls wouldn't go flying everywhere. It'd be a good place to do it.
Right.
But yeah, if anyone wants more info on that, they can get in touch with me. I have my details at the end.
Okay, great.
So I work in social work. I'm studying my second degree. I have a degree in teaching from Australia, and I'm doing my social work degree here in Denmark at the moment. So I'm not a social media person per se, or a marketing person or like whatever. But I kind of know how to get people to care about us or like engage with us as an account based on my social work background. So there's this ladder by this guy called Hart. and it's a participation ladder. Down the very bottom, you have non-participation with like therapy and manipulation. You also have informing. This would be people sending out information on social media, like, hey, we're holding it, like doing a game. Consultation is where a lot of people work with their social media. Like they'll be saying, oh, hey, we're going to do a new logo. We have 2 logos. It's like, which one do you want? A or B, or like you could come with a suggestion and they'll maybe think about it, but at the end of the day, they're going to make a decision. We kind of wanted to move our social media up into this like section up here, 6, 7, which is called partnership. So if we're going to do anything in Denmark, because we don't have much content a lot of the time, we actually use the fact that we're maybe designing uniforms or making a logo as content in itself. Like I put out a tweet that will say, hey, we're making a new logo. Does anyone have any suggestions for, what it could be? And then you'll have like 20 responses. And then you can go through and pick out the best 10 and do like a bracket out of them. Or even, we let our fans name our trophies. We've had people name our logo. I mean, Gorm the Viking is called Gorm because of a Twitter poll. And the more people get more influence in our program, the more they care about us as a program, and they'll actually want to participate with us in social media. And at the end of the day, buy our products. So the main thing would be giving the followers more power. So we let people suggest pretty much everything. Like they even named our indoor trophy the Wooden Mc Indoor Trophy Face Trophy. They've named our logos. They chose this thing called the Ultimate Fighting Pastry. We ran a bracket earlier this year to get a new logo for our like national team, which is going to be on our uniforms, which will ultimately, through our uniform partner, are going to be selling with this logo on it. So the idea is that people who were involved in that process of helping us create this logo will be more likely to purchase it. We'll see if it ends up happening. If we sell a lot of them, then it'll be proven to be successful. So at the bottom it says, now our followers feel this level of ownership over our logos and are more likely to purchase things because they feel like they're really part of it. Even the whole thing, the fighting pastries, is from social media. I remember we're called Danish Lacrosse because in Denmark it's called Dansk Lacrosse, not Denmark Lacrosse. So it translates to Danish. Most other countries it would be like England Lacrosse or US Lacrosse, but we're Danish Lacrosse. And then someone, this guy called Chris, who's mainly Mesh on Instagram, he wrote #GoPastries. And we kind of grabbed that and ran with it and turned it into our coach at the time, Nick. He was calling us the Fighting Danes. So we ended up calling it the Fighting Pastries. But even this like fist and Danish flag example at the bottom is another like Twitter poll or Instagram vote, like, what emoji combination should we use? I've kind of started switching it up to a love heart and the Danish flag these days. But we used to drive pretty hardcore with the fist flag combo for a couple of years on pretty much everything. So here's an example of fans picking our logo for us. We had 8 different logos drawn by a guy called Jim Fenzel. If you ever need a logo, he does custom ones. They're actually pretty cool. You can do whatever you want. He drew up different fighting pastries, and we ran a bracket where the fans could vote. People could vote for their favorite fighting pastry on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and then whichever pastry won the best out of 3 over those platforms went on to the next round. So we ended up with this Viking with an axe at the bottom, the Danish Lacrosse Ultimate Fighting Pastry. So that logo is going to be on our national team uniforms in some capacity that we're going to be selling at one stage. Recruiting and social media. So we play lacrosse in Denmark, but we always post in English. I think the main thing with our social media is to try and catch, like, lacrosse is bigger obviously in Canada and America. We want to engage with those people more. I mean, there's not many people in Denmark who even know lacrosse is, but the level of English here is actually really good. So I think if anyone saw the lacrosse on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and they were interested in it, then they wouldn't be turned off by the post in English anyway. We're active on multiple platforms. I mean, people can always see that we've been posting. So and we follow up and reply really quickly. People send a message on Facebook, you got to make sure you get in there, because like it can be hard for people to reach out and say, hey, I want to try a new sport. Obviously, the quicker you reply and follow up to those things, the better it is for them. They'll think, hey, these people actually want me to be a part of their team. We've got a whole bunch of senior expats, so like Americans, Canadians. We have a guy from Argentina at the moment playing with us in Copenhagen. We played with their national team. They've all found us on the internet. We always try and recruit our youth players in person at schools. Every now and then we've had one or two randomly pop up who've found us on the internet, but it's not really our main recruiting source. Different platforms. So most people are really big on Instagram, especially with lacrosse. For us, we just do it as our outward face. It's kind of our brand. You know, who are we as the Fighting Pastries? I like Twitter more myself. It's more quick news for us, but we also use it for networking mostly. There's less traffic on Twitter than Instagram. It's actually a really good idea if you program, team, whatever, to get on Twitter to try and create conversations with people, because there aren't as many young people asking for free gear or whatever, clogging the airwaves. It's easy to be found on Twitter. Facebook is a bit more family oriented. It's usually, I don't know, I would post something on Facebook. It might be like a longer game review or like a captain's summary of like a national team game or something like that, that you think family and friends might be interested in reading, kind of like old school newsletters we've kind of pushed over on Facebook these days. I have Instagram set up that it automatically reposts to Facebook a lot of the time, but I don't know. Facebook is, it's a weird one. People don't use it as much these days, but it's still pretty good for information sharing. TikTok, so I'm too old for that. The women's team made an account recently, so we could use it for like photo editing and other stuff. Some of the tools on there seem pretty simple to use. I haven't really logged into it, but we'll see. It might become a thing for us soon. Snapchat, we haven't used it as much recently. I know some of the younger guys are still into it. They used to like taking over our Snapchat. I actually I don't mind Snapchat. I don't use it heaps, but if you're doing content, it's a good way of doing like simple video editing, loops, reverses, and like slow-mo. If you don't have a very good phone, you can download Snapchat, and you can even do slow-mo on Snapchat, and even get things to go reverse can be a pretty cool feature to make something that's a bit plain to a little bit more interesting sometimes. Cool. How to find us? We're at Danish Lacrosse on everything. Yeah, and if you want to chat to me, you can email me, james@danishlacrosse.com, or find me on Twitter and Instagram at jnrobbo. And this is another example. This is my son wearing a bucket helmet t-shirt. So this is one of the other t-shirts we've done over time. But that's about it for the presentation.
Okay, so Q&As are obviously open. We've got a couple that are in here, so please feel free to put those in. We can see a wide variety of attendees in here from actually a couple different nations. So one of the first questions is, do you do a lot of paid advertising for recruiting, for instance, on Instagram and Facebook? And if so, do you find it effective?
We've actually never, I think we did paid advertising once in Copenhagen, and I could see that like it got seen by a lot of people, but it didn't really result in any new recruits for us. We just don't really have any money that we would prioritize with paid advertising. I don't know. We made business cards once. That was actually a really good way of recruiting. To stick business cards, and every player had a few in their wallet at one stage. So you'd go out to a party and you'd talk to someone who said you played lacrosse, and if they looked semi-interested, you could stick a business card in their hand with like the club's Facebook address on it and whatever, so they could get in touch. Would be probably a better way of spending the money. People find advertising annoying. I don't know if it's just me, but like if I'm scrolling down Instagram and I see an ad for something, I usually roll my eyes and just keep scrolling. It's a bit annoying to have all these ads pop up when you want to be doing something else.
All right. James, curious to know, this comes from the discussion we had earlier. Colleen wants to know if you're curious, if you're the sole social media for your accounts, or do you have multiple contributors?
No, that's only me. Yeah, Twitter and Facebook is me. Every now and then some other people post on Instagram. We do a lot of takeover stuff on Instagram because obviously, like, I don't go to every training anymore. I have 2 kids now. So some nights I don't go, but the other guys, they'll take a photo. Sometimes they'll log in and post it. Otherwise, they'll send it to me and I'll post it. I used to do everything for it, even create all the content and do everything. I got a bit burned out after the World Championship, so I took a bit of a step back from doing that all. It can be really hard. I recommend to people to get as many people involved in creating content as they can, even if it's just filming wall ball and sending it to you, or workouts or whatever. I mean, the more content that's coming from a large variety of people, the better. It can be really hard. I mean, a lot of people, I've talked to different people and they feel a bit burned out sometimes about having to do everything themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it can be a bit arduous and be a little bit monotonous, and sometimes you just need a break. But that I'm glad you brought up the World Championship, because that leads me into the next question. It was related back to the Worlds. How do you handle multiple social media accounts, consistent updates, and fresh content while you are playing?
It went a bit by the wayside, to be honest, at the World Championships. I don't know. I kind of struggled personally because I was trying to do my Danish lacrosse and everything, and then also stay in touch with my wife and kids in Denmark while we're away in Israel. We had some obligations to post some stuff for some sponsors that we got those done, but it was a bit of a drag sometimes as well. I think we just kind of posted on, a game recap. We obviously we had one of our players kick a guy's stick and it went flying about 50 meters, which turned into one of our best posts ever. So, so we had a photographer with us. That was pretty cool. But it was really hard, especially at the World Games. I mean, we ended up creating a lot of content there that we didn't post while we were there, but we've been able to use for the next 2 years. So, I don't know. It was a bit of a storm. I mean, the World Games are really busy enough, so it was also hard to try and, obviously I can't tweet a play-by-play when I'm goalkeeping in the exact same game. So ideally, you'd have a girlfriend or a parent who would like to help out as well, or a dedicated social media person who's not on the team. But it's also hard for those people to watch the games and enjoy them and be a part of that if they also have to have their face buried in a phone 24/7.
Yeah, that same experience. I mean, there's a few blessed nations that can afford to carry an extra few bodies without, sacrificing too much money and time to be able to do that. So, so the next question is the revenue you raise through social media enough to fund the program? There's 2 parts to this, so I'll let you answer that one first.
It's not enough. I mean, players still pay their way for everything. Most of the money that we actually make, I mean, we've sold a few hundred Copenhagen Good Boys t-shirts overseas in the last year. All that money goes into junior lacrosse in Copenhagen. We've also sold all these Gorm t-shirts. They go to the national team. So obviously, like, national team t-shirts will go to the national team. We have a women's national team logo, and anything sold with that goes to development of women's lacrosse in Denmark. The Copenhagen Good Boys t-shirts, they've been really good for us, and that actually just goes to junior development in our club. It's been, I don't know, that's what I was saying, create a web shop.
Yeah.
Because we ended up probably just breaking even when we were ordering them into Copenhagen and had to post them out to people, and a lot of the stuff we didn't sell and we had too much stock laying around. So it was easier just to have a web shop that hosted it and send it out, and then send us the money for our share of the profits.
Right.
Took kind of a lot of pressure off me as a person trying to organize that stuff. But it also was easier because we had a lot of people in America who wanted to buy t-shirts, but having to post them and would have to include the price on that, it kind of put the t-shirt into a price where it wasn't that good to buy anymore. I mean, you're talking $25 for a t-shirt or $30 or whatever. But in America, we have a web shop that's there, and it's $15 for a t-shirt, and then there's postage, which might come to $20, which most people will want to pay for a cool t-shirt.
Do you have annual goals for revenue through social media? And if so, what is it?
No, not really. I mean, obviously, just sell as many t-shirts as possible. We've never really sat down and talked about, like, any money for us as a goal. We have goals for what money we make, obviously, like bachelor parties and enough to like pay for what we're doing in Copenhagen. But I wouldn't say like we have a set price on social media. I mean, it doesn't cost us anything. We're leveraging free platforms through like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter to then sell t-shirts, which we actually don't have to pay any money to do because we use a web shop that someone else runs. So everything is a win there for us. Sometimes it starts to go a bit flat. I mean, that's when we need to start looking at, we rebranded. We had trouble selling any t-shirts. No one bought anything with Copenhagen on it unless they came to Copenhagen and thought, hey, this is a cool city. And then as soon as we rebranded to the Copenhagen Good Boys, the dog logo, we sold a few hundred pretty quickly. So yeah, I don't know. Everything's a bit of a win for us on social media as far as selling products go.
So the next one is actually on the flip side of things. Have you ever discovered or have you ever experienced any negative reactions on Twitter or social platforms, and how did you deal with it?
Here we go. We had Mia Khalifa, who is an ex-porn star, and she has a few million followers on social media, and she actually bought some of our t-shirts and then posted a picture online. And then we had some people obviously writing to us like saying, hey, you know, this is really cool, you know, where can I get one? And then we had a lot of other people like basically damning us as a brand, saying they'd never support us again. At the end of the day, I can't control what t-shirt Mia Khalifa wants to wear and post pictures of online. I mean, it sold us a lot of t-shirts, but then, you know, for people to get angry about that was probably a little bit interesting. Most people are pretty happy with what we do on the internet. People like being involved. Every now and then, guys from our own club are like, hey, you should post this or we should do that. And like, obviously, constructive criticism is good in that way. Most other people are just happy that we post anything. I mean, most national teams don't. And they're pretty, you know, they don't really engage in anything on the internet. So usually people are like, oh, wow, Denmark posts all the time and posts as much as US lacrosse. So most people are pretty positive about it. Every now and then you'll get a post where people comment silly things, but I mean, we're adults.
Next one is, do you use a social content calendar? And if you do, what do you recommend?
We actually don't. We don't have any calendar of any type as far as like social media stuff goes or social content. We do events. I mean, if it's Halloween, we do a pumpkin shootout. If it's Easter, we do dress up night at training and take photos. We try to keep it pretty simple and low key. I know like for bigger organizations with more people would be more into that stuff, but I think people need to chill out and just make it feel right and organic and like, you know, natural, rather than planning everything to the nth degree. I mean, some of our best posts are just stuff that's happened. Like someone wore a bike helmet the other day at training. We took a photo and posted it online, and he was actually running around playing lacrosse with a bicycle helmet on. I thought it was funny, you know.
Were you able to attach a mask to it?
No, yeah, we were just playing 3x, so it was, I don't know what the rules are about wearing a helmet when you're playing speed lacrosse or non-contact lacrosse.
I mean, there's something to be said for keeping it light, keeping it fun.
Yeah.
You know, I think organizations and especially kids kind of can see right through the branded organizational type messaging.
Yeah, that's the thing I was saying before. It's like, if it's too stale, it's boring. Obviously, I was saying earlier, we used to be way more kind of out there, a bit leery in the start. We were saying the European version of washed up Lax Bros. Everything was a bit of a beer joke, and you know, we finally got our national team on the park and went to world championships, and we restarted women's lacrosse and youth lacrosse. So it was like, okay, we better start posting things a little bit more wholesome and a little, you know, informative about what we're doing, rather than just
right
dick jokes on the internet or whatever. But
so here's a great question. Your top 5 follows, doesn't matter the platform.
I don't know. Like some people you might have a big follow, but they don't interact with you. I mean, the top 5 followers would probably be the 5 people who interact with us the most.
Well,
I mean,
I think it's getting at your favorite top 5.
Oh, my favorite top 5.
Yeah, I think that's the question.
Okay, yeah.
They can resubmit it if I'm wording it wrong, but
Yeah. I love Washed Up Lacrosse. That's one I've mentioned a couple of times. I think that it's just genius. They have I've actually written back and forth with the guy a bunch of times personally about a few different things with social media and whatever. They have like 30,000 followers. He doesn't even create content. He just reposts other people's videos and puts a funny caption and some hashtags on there, and it blows up. And they've started using it to raise money for Movember charity and what I think it's really cool.
Now, what platform is that?
That's on Instagram. They have about 30 something thousand followers on Instagram just by reposting funny lacrosse videos. I like the Mimico Mountaineers, obviously, like that peanut lacrosse, those little kids running around like bobblehead lacrosse is just genius as well. What else do I like? I don't know.
This is a really put you on the spot type question.
Yeah, hard to name 5. I mean, I'm constantly on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and everything. Like, it's hard to pick out 5. I like what the PLL does. That's like, they've managed to blow up lacrosse into something on the internet that is just, it's probably next level. They managed to combine good content with good quality. They use, high definition filming for everything and super slow-mo, this and that. Like we film stuff on my phone has a broken screen. It's a Motorola from like 5 years ago, but I can still get good content out of it. I mean, what you're posting is more important than how like clear it looks, but obviously a combination of quality and what the message is the best thing.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to think
there's another, as far as international like things go, there's these guys in Australia. It's called Ozlaxnet, like Australian Lacrosse Network, and they actually started. They weren't a part of like official anything in Australia, but they just started taking pictures at like national team trainings and posting it, and they're really good on multiple platforms. So if anyone's into international lacrosse, you should check out Ozlaxnet. They're really good. I remember they actually wrote to me like when they were starting, like, oh, what do you think about this and that? And they've kind of just overtaken us as far as all that. They live stream their national championships and all this other stuff, which I would love to do here, but we don't even have a league. I mean, we play 7-on-7 lacrosse once a month in Denmark. So.
Well, and funny enough, that's one of the next questions is what's the next goal, or what is the biggest goal for Danish Lacrosse?
More kids. I think like we have our first ever under 16 team in Copenhagen at the moment, and we're actually about to send a bunch of those boys up to our senior team in the club. So we need more kids. We need to get a whole bunch of 10-year-olds in. We have a few at the moment, but we need enough to make another whole team of juniors. And then obviously we need to do that again and again and again and again and create multiple junior teams. We always have a look at the countries that just do the best internationally have junior lacrosse. USA, Canada, Australia, England, and the Iroquois as well. Like these kids that walking around with lacrosse sticks in their hands. We're starting to get a little bit more now. I mean, juniors kind of started here with some of the old national team guys. Their kids are starting to come of an age where they can actually play. Like they're around that 10, 12 years old, so they're starting to get involved. But we just need more kids.
Yeah, well, and that's a constant need for a lot of organizations on the national level. I mean, it's a foundation of success, right? Being able to bring in younger kids, which is great when it comes to social media because you can drive recruitment as much as possible because you're finding kids younger and younger with phones.
Yeah. I mean, our main thing, I was saying before, like we don't really produce social media content as a way of recruiting. Like we would rather we have our kids in and we've just ordered a whole bunch of t-shirts. with the Good Boys logo on them for those kids. Like they're gonna get their T-shirts and wear them around school, and people are gonna be like, "Hey, what's this sport?" Hopefully they're gonna say they're over handball and soccer and whatever, and they want to come out and try this sport with the funny logo. We've done a lot to try and hang on to the kids we have. I mean, often it's hard when they turn 16, 17, 18 years old and they start getting interested in other things than sport. And it's also can be a big jump from juniors to seniors. So we do a lot of stuff in our club personally to try and hang on to these kids and get them involved with the seniors as much as possible.
Yeah.
With seniors getting more seniors getting involved in position-specific training for the kids. Like I coach a goalie at our club, obviously. We do a lot of 3x. Like we finished training last week. We're back at training after this whole Corona pandemic thing. Well, it's still going on, but we had training, and at the end of training, we broke up into small groups and had the seniors playing 3x with the kids. So like we want to try and transition to the kids where they think that we're not so scary and they're not going to get beat up playing senior lacrosse, but they're going to want to enjoy it.
You know what? We're gonna cut it off shortly. There's a couple more questions I can see in the queue. One of them's a little off topic, but I know who's asking it. And I'd like to give it a little leeway here because I know what she's trying to do. Do you receive any national funding? And if you don't, are there guidelines for your organization to qualify?
We don't get any funding of any type. We actually looked into it about getting written into this, what do you call it? Dansk Idrætsforbund, which is like an umbrella organization for all the national teams and everything, but you have to have 1,500 paying members, which we're a long way from. Obviously we do everything ourselves. I know like there've been some other problems in other countries with losing their charitable status and other things in Canada. I know like in Australia, I actually played junior lacrosse for Australia and that wasn't funded in any way either. People had to pay out of their own pockets. Unfortunately, that's the way lacrosse is. I'd like to see it evolve to a place where we can send junior national teams and men's and women's and everything to world events without having people having to pay out of their pockets, out of their own pockets, or it's easy to get funding for these things. That would obviously be a great step. I mean, people keep talking about the Olympics and it might be the thing that does it, but we'll see what happens.
Gotcha. And that actually just answered the second question. So it was, if lacrosse is to get into the Olympics, do you think it would take off in popularity in countries that are struggling right now to find participants such as yourselves?
I think it could be good.
Because you and I were talking about that before we went live.
Yeah, I think it could be good. It would give us more credibility in Denmark. And no one knows what lacrosse is. And you say lacrosse and people look at you weird, like you're trying to say CrossFit, but have some weird accent or something. Or people say, oh, like, where do you keep the horse? Or, you're walking down the street with a lacrosse stick and they think it's some kind of weird fishing rod or a butterfly net or something. You get some weird looks. I think Olympics would be good. So if you were, out and you said, I play lacrosse, and someone said, well, what's that? You could say, oh, it's at the Olympics now. You can check it out here, here, and here. And there'd be some kind of credibility around it. I would actually really like to see the small-sided rules. I actually don't really like them. They need to be tweaked. There's a lot of things that could be better about them, but I would like to see a small-sided version of the game that could be played, because it would be good for us. I mean, we have so much trouble trying to get 10 people, like 10 on 10. I mean, we could probably play 7 on 7 with not many subs. We could probably make a league out of it, like a 4-team league or something. At the moment, we don't have any league. So I don't know. Small-sided lacrosse would be good. I think getting in the Olympics would be good. I don't think it's the miracle that maybe some people think about, but I think it would be beneficial.
Yeah, I think it's, if we're prepared, we'll be okay. If we're not, I think then there could be problems. But James, we were promising to try and keep these under an hour. I appreciate your time here.
I could probably talk for many days about international lacrosse and social media and whatever. So if anyone wants to reach out to me, they can just find me on the internet and I'll reply to anyone about anything.
Yeah, well, especially considering, it's 10 o'clock when we started your time. So,
Yeah.
appreciate you staying up and doing this with us, joining us from Danish Lacrosse and across the pond. It's always nice to have contributions. So, again, thank you very much. Gonna do a quick shout out to the sponsors who kind of made the Global Lacrosse Summit possible. Uncommon Fit, Sticks and Picks Podcast, Bear Paw Lacrosse Events, the Power Team, Major Series Lacrosse, Manitoba Lacrosse, and Apex Lacrosse Events. We will be back at 6 o'clock when Nick Rose joins us, talk about some advanced goaltending concepts for box lacrosse.
Cool. Rosie is full of good information.
Another good follow on social media as well.
Yeah, he is good. All right.
Teams, take care.
Good afternoon, everyone. Have fun.